I woke up that morning feeling good. Really good. There's this rare kind of confidence that hits you sometimes. The kind where you actually like what you see in the mirror. And today, it was all about the outfit. I'd spent way too long thinking about it, scrolling through photos, debating combinations, imagining the little statements it would make. Not that anyone was judging me, or maybe they were. Either way, I wanted to walk into that office feeling like I was walking in as someone who mattered. Pouring the coffee, I caught a whiff of the rich, bitter aroma that always somehow wakes up my brain before the rest of me. The sunlight streamed in through the window, cutting sharp lines across the floor, and I swear I could hear it whispering, "Today's going to be something." I straightened my jacket, tugged at the sleeves, smoothed down my shirt. Small movements, almost rituals that I caught my reflection in the mirror and paused. This is me, I told myself, a little louder than necessary. Confident, ready, unstoppable, right? I laughed at the echo of doubt that tried to creep in behind the words. Just a tiny flicker, but it was there. Maybe today wouldn't go exactly as I imagined, but right now, in this moment, it felt perfect. There's something about mornings like that. The little details feel sharper. The sound of the coffee machine bubbling, the distant hum of traffic outside, the soft rhythm of my own breathing. It's almost cinematic, if you wanted it to be. I grabbed my bag, slipped my phone into my pocket, and for the briefest second, I thought nothing could ruin this day. But then, there was this tiny, unplaceable feeling, like a shadow at the edge of the room. I shook it off, thinking it was just nerves. After all, it was just work. Just a normal day. But maybe, just maybe, the universe had other plans. Walking into the office, I felt that subtle shift immediately, the kind you don't notice at first, but it lodges in the pit of your stomach. Heads turned. Not a dramatic, wow, kind of glance, but those quiet, lingering looks that make your skin crawl. Whispers floated through the air, soft and almost conspiratorial, like the room suddenly had a secret and I wasn't in on it. That I paused at the entrance, trying to read the room. My boss was at his desk, glancing up just long enough to make me feel small, but not long enough to say anything. Colleagues shifted in their chairs, pens tapping, screens flickering. The energy was cold, cautious, and heavy. A part of me tried to rationalize it. Maybe they were just having a bad morning. Maybe I was overthinking. I always overthink. That I felt my confidence wobble. Is it really the outfit? I asked myself, brushing imaginary lint off my shoulder. Or am I imagining things? My heels clicked against the floor as I walked past my team. Each step felt louder than usual, echoing in my ears, like the soundtrack to some subtle, silent judgment I couldn't escape. There was a whisper behind me, maybe a laugh, and my stomach sank. Not because I cared what anyone thought, exactly, but because for the first time that morning, the little bubble of pride I'd built around myself felt thin, fragile, temporary. I could almost feel the eyes tracing me, measuring, calculating, finding something to criticize. Still, I straightened my back and reminded myself I had work to do, meetings to attend, presentations to lead. This was my space too. I could let their judgment roll off me, but that flicker of doubt had been planted. That morning, I realized confidence wasn't just about how you felt in your clothes. It was about how the world decided to treat you when you dared to wear them. The office felt a little colder than usual, a little more rigid, as if my outfit had shifted the entire atmosphere. And though I tried to ignore it, I couldn't help that nagging thought. Maybe today wasn't going to be as straightforward as I'd imagined. That I didn't even see it coming. 1 minute, I was settling into my desk, trying to shake off the whispers and sideways glances, convincing myself it was nothing. The next, my boss was calling me into his office. The way he said my name, it was clipped, formal, and something about it made my stomach tighten. I followed, my steps echoing against the hallway floor, each click of my shoes sounding far too loud. The office door closed behind me, and suddenly the air felt different. Heavy, pressed in from all sides. I could see the corner of his desk stacked with papers, the faint smell of coffee lingering, but it was like nothing could anchor me to normalcy. And then he said it. "This isn't appropriate for our culture. You're fired." The words didn't register at first. My brain froze, looping the sentence like a broken record. Fired for what? I finally managed to croak. "My clothes." He didn't answer. He just repeated it, with that same tone, final, uncompromising. My mind spun. 2 years of work, late nights, deadlines, presentations, client calls, all of it erased in a single, suffocating sentence. The world seemed to tilt slightly. My reflection in the glass door caught my eye. My own expression, wide-eyed, mouth slightly open, disbelief etched into every line of my face. And then, anger. Sharp, hot, sudden. How dare they? How dare anyone reduce years of dedication, expertise, and results to the fabric of a jacket, the cut of a shirt, the color of a tie? My hands shook a little as I clenched them at my sides. I wanted to argue, to scream, to point out the absurdity, but what would that have accomplished? I thought of my colleagues. Some looked at me with sympathy, others avoided my gaze. The whispers I had felt earlier now seemed like a chorus of validation for their judgment. I walked out of that office, each step feeling heavier than the last. The hallway stretched endlessly before me, fluorescent lights buzzing softly overhead. Every detail, the smell of the old carpet, the faint hum of the air conditioner, felt magnified, as if the world wanted me to remember this moment in excruciating detail. I paused once, just outside the door, taking a shaky breath. It wasn't just shock. It wasn't just embarrassment. It was betrayal. Pure, unfiltered, baffling betrayal. And yet, deep down, even through the sting, a tiny voice whispered something dangerous. Maybe they've underestimated me. Maybe they've made a mistake they'll regret. Packing up my things felt heavier than I expected. My laptop, files, notebooks, all the little pieces of my life I'd poured into this job, suddenly seemed foreign in my hands. The office that had felt like home just days ago now felt like a cage. Each object I picked up, each folder I closed, echoed in my mind like a countdown. You're done here. I walked past my colleagues, head held as high as I could manage, though I'm sure they saw the tension in my shoulders, the slight quiver in my hands. Some offered awkward smiles. Others looked away, pretending not to notice. And me? I felt a mix of anger and liberation swirling inside me. A weird cocktail of emotions you don't quite recognize until you step into the hallway, and the sunlight hits differently. Makes everything look sharper, colder, and why thoughts kept circling back to the deal, the big one I'd been nurturing for months, the one that could have changed the company's trajectory. And I realized something terrifying, exciting, and powerful all at once. I had all the cards in my hands. If they thought they could push me out and keep me powerless, they were sorely mistaken. I could almost hear a laugh bubbling up from somewhere deep inside me. Dry, sarcastic, just enough to surprise myself. If they want to play games, fine. I'll play too. The hallway stretched endlessly before me. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, and I swear I could feel them vibrating against my skin, like the building itself was holding its breath. Every step I took felt like it was making a statement, though I wasn't sure if it was for them or for me. Maybe both. There was a moment when I almost stopped, almost let the anger slip into regret. But no, I straightened my back, squared my shoulders, and reminded myself, this is me now, fired for something trivial, but not powerless. Not yet. I slid my bag over my shoulder and stepped outside into the morning light. The city felt sharper, alive, as if it was waiting for me to make my move. And I knew this wasn't just a job lost. This was a story in motion, and I was about to take control of the narrative. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not from exhaustion, not from stress, but from the way my mind kept spinning, looping. The same thought over and over. They fired me for my clothes. It felt like a cruel joke. Years of loyalty, effort, and results dismissed with a few words. And then, just as quickly, another thought crept in, one that made my heart pound in a way that was both thrilling and terrifying. If they think they can push me out, maybe it's time they feel the consequences. I paced my apartment, the glow of the city outside seeping through the blinds, painting lines across the floor. The phone buzzed beside me, ignored, because right now, I wasn't thinking about calls or emails. I was thinking about the deal, the big one, the one I'd nurtured from nothing into something massive. Every late night, every pitch, every little negotiation, I knew it all. Contacts, strategies, timelines, all of it. And suddenly, the idea hit me. I could give this to someone else and watch them benefit where I was cast aside. There was a thrill in the thought. Dangerous, delicious. I could almost taste it. The satisfaction of seeing the competition take the reins, of knowing my old company would flounder, scrambling to recover. But along with that excitement was a flicker of guilt, like a shadow at the edge of the thrill. Am I betraying them? Or just reclaiming what I earned? I imagined the conversations I would have. Carefully crafted messages, hints dropped just so, the deal sliding seamlessly into someone else's hands. My mind raced with possibilities. The thrill of control mixed with the bitterness of rejection created a cocktail that made me feel alive. In a way I hadn't in weeks. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic. I sank into the couch, staring at the ceiling, the city lights casting abstract shapes across the walls. Every scenario I imagined felt cinematic. Phone calls in dimly lit offices, emails sent at the perfect moment, the shock on familiar faces when the news broke. And in that moment, I realized something about myself I hadn't fully acknowledged before. Anger could be a tool, and knowledge was power. They had tried to push me out, to diminish me. Now, I could turn that into something undeniable, something they couldn't ignore. The night stretched on, and I knew I had made a decision. A dangerous one, but one that felt right. For me. For the first time in hours, maybe days, I felt a spark of exhilaration. Not just because I had a plan, but because, finally, the game had changed. As I sat there, letting the adrenaline settle into a simmering focus, my mind kept drifting back. Back to the long nights I'd spent in that office, the fluorescent lights humming overhead while the city outside slept. Every presentation deck meticulously crafted, every email double-checked, every call scheduled to perfection. I'd poured myself into this deal, piece by piece, thread by thread, that I remember one night in particular. The office was empty except, for me, the soft click of my keyboard echoing in the silence. My coffee had gone cold hours ago, and the stack of papers on my desk looked like a small fortress I'd built around myself. I was exhausted, yes, but I also felt invincible, like I was building something that mattered, something bigger than myself. And yet, here I was, thinking about that same effort, that same dedication, and how easily it had been dismissed. 2 years. 2 whole years of effort. Gone. It hit me in waves. Bitter, unfair, absurd. And I realized, with a sinking feeling, that it wasn't just about the firing. It was about all those moments I had sacrificed. Missed dinners, canceled plans. Endless weekends spent working while the world carried on outside. The memory of that last big meeting flashed in my mind. I had stood in the conference room, pointing to charts, answering questions, pushing ideas forward with everything I had. The clients had nodded, impressed, energized. I had left that room thinking, yes, this is it. We're going to make it happen. And now, that triumph felt like a cruel joke. Yet, even in that bitterness, a spark of clarity emerged. All that work, all that knowledge, wasn't gone. It was still inside me. Every connection, every insight, every strategy, it was mine. And that realization was intoxicating. They might have thought they could erase me, but I still held the key. The apartment felt smaller, darker, as I traced the memories in my mind. The piles of documents, the sticky notes scribbled with frantic deadlines, the coffee-stained calendars, all of it painted a portrait of someone who had given everything. And that someone was still here. Not defeated, not finished. That I leaned back, letting the memories wash over me, fueling something deeper. The anger, the injustice, it all became fuel. And with it came a chilling but exhilarating thought. If they think they've won, they've underestimated me. I didn't sleep much that night. The apartment was quiet, but my mind was anything but. Every possible outcome played in fast forward, each one sharper, riskier, and more thrilling than the last. The deal, the one I had built from scratch, the one that had consumed months of my life, suddenly felt like a weapon in my hands. And for the first time since getting fired, I felt a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. That I sat on the edge of the couch, phone in hand, staring at the blank screen as if it were a precipice. One text, one email, one small action, and the entire game would change. My fingers hovered, trembling slightly. Am I really doing this? Am I betraying my old team? Or am I just reclaiming what I earned? The questions gnawed at me, but the answer seemed clear in my gut. This wasn't betrayal. It was survival. It was justice. That I remembered all the late nights, the empty coffee cups, the endless brainstorming sessions. Those memories weren't just nostalgia. They were proof that I had built something valuable, something they couldn't take from me. Not really. And now, with careful, deliberate steps, I could place it where it belonged. The city lights outside my window stretched into lines and shapes, sharp against the dark. I imagined my competitors receiving the message, their surprise, the excitement. In their voices, I imagined my old boss scrambling, realizing too late what had slipped through his fingers. A thrill ran through me. This wasn't just revenge, it was a reclamation of power, a reminder that knowledge and effort aren't things you can fire someone out of. Finally, I typed. Carefully, every word measured, professional, just enough to spark interest without revealing too much. I paused. My finger hovered over send, like it was a decision that could fracture the world. And then, with a deep breath, I pressed it. The email went out. Immediately, a strange silence settled over me. The adrenaline ebbed, leaving a hollow, weighty calm. I stared at the screen, the blinking cursor mocking me, reminding me of the gravity of what I'd just done. The excitement was there, yes, but so was the tension, the knowledge that from this point forward, nothing would be the same. And as I leaned back, letting the chair support me, I realized something fundamental. Fear and power are closer than you think. And sometimes, the scariest steps are the ones that finally make you feel alive. The next morning, I woke to a flood of messages, notifications piling up on my phone like small, impatient reminders of reality. The deal had gone through. The competition had accepted it. My former company was left scrambling, blindsided, trying to stitch together a plan they had no chance of executing. And me? I sat in my apartment, staring out at the city, a strange cocktail of emotions twisting in my chest. Part of me felt the satisfaction, sharp and sweet, like the first sip of a drink you've waited hours for. They had underestimated me. They had dismissed me. And now, with one small but deliberate action, I had proven that I wasn't powerless. I had moved the pieces on the board, and the game had shifted entirely in my favor. But alongside that thrill came an unexpected weight. There was a hollow edge to this victory, a quiet whisper that maybe I should feel more guilt, more remorse. I thought back to the hours, the colleagues I had trusted, the faces I'd once considered part of a team. The realization hit me. Satisfaction isn't always pure. It's messy, complicated, and somehow heavier than you expect. I remembered the chaos in their office from past interactions, the way decisions used to be made in a flurry, the stress that always seemed to hang over my boss's shoulder. And now, I could almost see the panic in his eyes, the realization that he had lost not just a deal, but the control he thought he had. A small, wry smile tugged at the corner of my lips, because yes, the justice of it felt deserved. The city outside continued its indifferent hum. Cars, lights, people moving through their lives unaware of the tiny storm I had stirred. I felt a strange detachment, like an observer watching a ripple spread through water I had created. It was powerful, yes, empowering, even. But there was a sobering truth embedded in that power. What I had done was irreversible that I sank into my chair, letting the weight of it all settle. Anger, satisfaction, guilt, pride, they mingled in my chest like shadows stretching at sunset. And for the first time in days, I allowed myself to breathe fully, to recognize the complexity of the moment. Victory was mine, yes, but it wasn't simple. It was layered, raw, and undeniably human. And as I stared out at the city lights, I realized something essential. Life doesn't offer clean wins or losses. It offers choices. And the consequences? Well, those are ours to live with, alone in my apartment. The silence was almost deafening. The chaos of the last few days, the firing, the plan, the fallout, had left a residue in my chest that I couldn't shake. I poured a glass of water and sat down, staring at the city lights blinking. Against the dark. For the first time, I let myself really feel everything. Anger, sure. Pride, definitely. Relief, without a doubt. But also guilt. That small, nagging voice in the back of my head, asking if I'd gone too far, if the satisfaction I'd felt carried a hidden cost. Did I overstep? I wondered. Was this really justice, or just revenge dressed up as cleverness? I thought about the people I'd left behind, the colleagues who had been friendly, the ones who had respected me. I hadn't just pulled the deal out from under my old boss. I pulled it out from under everyone. And that knowledge sat heavy, like a stone in my chest, the same time. I realized something vital. I had allowed myself to be underestimated, silenced, and dismissed for too long. And in standing up for myself, even in a way that others might call ruthless, I had reclaimed something essential: respect, agency, control. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe without feeling small or powerless. I leaned back, my fingers tracing the rim of the glass, and let the emotions settle into clarity. Life doesn't come with neat answers. It doesn't hand out morality in clean, measurable doses. What I did wasn't simple, but neither was being pushed out, humiliated, dismissed for something as trivial as an outfit. And so, I forgave myself. Not because everything was right, but because I had to. I had to let go of the guilt that threatened to poison the victory I had clawed back. Anger and regret were natural, yes, but so was pride, so was resilience. And in that moment, I understood that the complexity of the feelings made me human, not weak. That I looked out at the city one last time, taking a deep breath. The storm of the past few days had passed, but the lessons remained. I didn't have all the answers, and I probably never would. But I had something better: awareness, clarity, and a sense of self that no firing, no judgment, and no obstacle could erase. Morning came differently this time. Not with the same nervous energy, not with the tight knot in my stomach, but with a kind of quiet clarity I hadn't felt in weeks. I woke up, stretched, and for the first time since all of this began, I didn't feel like I was stepping into someone else's world. I was stepping into mine. I made my coffee, slow and deliberate, letting the aroma fill the kitchen. The sunlight filtered through the blinds, warm and forgiving, casting patterns across the floor. I moved through the motions, but with a lightness that surprised me. I wasn't just surviving the aftermath anymore. I was living it, owning it. I thought about the outfit that had started it all, the judgment I had faced, the deal I had handed over, and the ripple it created. And I realized something fundamental. I can't control what others think of me. I can't control the rules they set or the opinions they form. But I can control how I respond. I can control how I carry myself, how I fight, how I move forward. And today, I choose me. I packed my bag with intention, each item a small act of reclaiming normalcy. The apartment felt different too, less like a cage, more like a launching pad. I glanced out the window at the city waking up, traffic humming, people moving through their routines, and felt a strange kinship with the chaos. The world didn't stop for my story, but that was okay. I had my own narrative to write now. As I walked out the door, the morning air hitting my face, I felt lighter, confident, free. I wasn't defined by the firing, by the judgment, or by the deal I'd orchestrated. I was defined by how I chose to rise afterward. And I was ready to step into the next chapter, ready to face the unknown with the knowledge that I could handle it, because I had already survived the storm and come out standing. The city stretched before me, alive, indifferent, and full of possibility. And for the first time in a long time, I smiled, not a triumphant, boastful smile, but one that carried peace, acceptance, and empowerment. This was me, moving forward, unshaken and unstoppable.